There are people who do not say I love you when their heart first trembles. They do not rush toward closeness, do not throw themselves into confessions, do not reveal their jealousy, fear, tenderness, or sleepless thoughts. Instead, they hide everything behind self-control, irony, distance, busyness, cold manners, or proud silence. And sometimes the tragedy is not that they feel too little, but that they feel too much. These are the people who can watch you from afar, memorize the way your voice changes when you are happy, notice who stands too close to you, suffer in silence, and still say nothing. They may convince themselves that there is still time, that tomorrow will be safer, that one more sign from you is needed, that their secret is better protected than exposed. But fate has a cruel sense of timing. Very often, these signs awaken fully to their own love only when they sense they are losing you for real. Not when you flirt, not when you disappear for a day, but when another person begins to take their place in your life, when your energy shifts, when your eyes stop waiting for them, when your heart begins building a different home. That is when their silence breaks. That is when the mask cracks. That is when the one who acted indifferent suddenly becomes restless, emotional, protective, even desperate. In this horoscope are the 5 zodiac signs most likely to hide deep feelings to the last possible moment and then confess them when you are almost standing at the altar with someone else. Let us talk about why they do this, how their love usually shows itself before the confession, and how to build a relationship with someone whose heart speaks late, but never lightly. Scorpio. If any sign can love with volcanic intensity while pretending to feel absolutely nothing, it is Scorpio. This is the sign of emotional extremes, secret attachment, inner control, and fear of betrayal. Scorpio rarely falls in love carelessly. When they do, it is not a game, not a passing curiosity, and not a sweet little romantic episode they can easily forget. For Scorpio, love is dangerous because it exposes the one place where they are not invincible. That is why, instead of confessing their feelings openly, they often become more watchful, more guarded, and paradoxically, more distant. They may start testing you without admitting it. They may provoke, disappear, observe, or speak in half sentences, hoping you will understand what they cannot yet say aloud. Why do they behave like this? Because Scorpio does not want to be the one standing emotionally naked while the other person still has the power to leave. They would rather suffer in secret than risk humiliation. They are terrified not of love itself, but of surrender without guarantee. So while they are already jealous, already attached, already imagining you in their future, they will often act as if they are above it all. Yet their feelings always leak through. Scorpio's love reveals itself in attention so precise it almost feels psychic. They remember things you forgot you said. They notice your moods before you explain them. They become protective when someone hurts you. They may not say I miss you, but they will check whether you got home safely. They may not confess tenderness, but they will look at you as if they are trying to memorize your soul. The dramatic truth is that Scorpio often speaks too late because they do not believe the window will really close. They assume the bond is still alive even in silence. But when they see that someone else is becoming important to you, something primal wakes up in them. Suddenly, the control they valued so much becomes unbearable. They may finally confess with raw honesty, surprising even themselves. And when Scorpio finally speaks, their words rarely sound casual. They come from the deepest part of them. I tried not to need you. I failed. That is the kind of love confession this sign carries for months, sometimes years. In relationships, Scorpio needs emotional safety, loyalty, and depth. They do not thrive with superficial partners who flirt with everyone, avoid serious conversations, or play emotional games. If you want to build something real with Scorpio, do not mock their vulnerability. Do not force confessions before they are ready, and do not confuse their silence with emptiness. Be consistent, be trustworthy, be emotionally intelligent enough to read what they cannot easily verbalize. At the same time, do not reward endless ambiguity. Scorpio must learn that love cannot always be guarded like a state secret. Healthy love with them begins when they realize that intimacy is not weakness, and when you make it clear that honesty is safer than disappearance. Their lesson is to speak sooner. Your lesson is to see beneath the armor without losing yourself in the mystery. Capricorn. Capricorn is one of the most misunderstood signs in love because their feelings often wear the costume of restraint. They do not usually confess in grand emotional waves. They do not rush into vulnerability just because the chemistry is strong. Even when Capricorn is deeply affected by someone, they may continue acting practical, composed, focused on work, and almost annoyingly calm. But inside, a whole silent drama may already be unfolding. Capricorn hides feelings because they take them seriously. To them, love is not just emotion, it is responsibility, risk, future, and consequence. They do not want to confess something they cannot protect, sustain, or control. This sign often believes that feelings should be proven, not announced. So instead of saying, "I'm falling for you," Capricorn may begin helping you in concrete ways. They solve problems. They give reliable advice. They remember what matters to you. They show up when others vanish. They may be emotionally reserved, but they are rarely indifferent when they truly care. Their affection is often expressed through loyalty, quiet support, practical generosity, and a growing desire to be useful in your life. The problem is that many people do not recognize these acts as love at first. Capricorn can appear too cautious, too formal, too slow, and by the time they are finally ready to speak, the other person may already be tired of waiting. Why do they behave like this? Because Capricorn fears emotional chaos. They want dignity. They want certainty. They want to know that what they feel will not make them foolish. Many Capricorns were born with the instinct to protect themselves by mastering emotion rather than surrendering to it. They would rather deny their longing than risk looking needy. They often tell themselves there will be a more appropriate moment, a more stable phase, a better time after this project, after this problem, after life becomes less complicated. But love does not always wait for good timing. And Capricorn, more than many signs, may realize the truth only when they see you moving on with someone else who offered you warmth more quickly. That is when their carefully managed composure begins to crack. They may suddenly become more attentive, more jealous, more emotionally open, even unexpectedly romantic. The confession of a Capricorn is rarely loud, but it is powerful because it means they have stepped over their deepest internal resistance. If they say, "You matter more to me than I planned," it is often the emotional equivalent of kneeling before fate. Capricorn does not confess lightly. When they do, it usually means their feelings have become impossible to organize into silence anymore. To build a relationship with Capricorn, you must respect both their sensitivity and their pace. They need trust, maturity, and emotional steadiness. They do not do well with people who demand constant proof, create drama for attention, or weaponize unpredictability. Yet Capricorn also needs a partner who gently invites them out from behind their emotional walls. Encourage honesty without shaming reserve. Value the love language of effort, reliability, and presence. But also teach them that words matter too. A relationship with Capricorn becomes beautiful when they stop treating love like a risk to manage and start treating it like a life to build. Their heart is slow to open, but once it does, it is one of the most enduring loves in the zodiac, Virgo. Virgo is one of those signs whose love is often mistaken for restraint, friendship, or simple thoughtfulness. But when Virgo truly falls, their feelings run much deeper than they are willing to admit. The problem is that Virgo does not trust emotion the way other signs do. They trust observation, logic, patterns, timing, and proof. Before they confess anything, they want to understand what exactly they feel, why they feel it, whether it is mutual, whether it is wise, and whether it can survive reality. While others are already writing love messages at midnight, Virgo is still analyzing your tone, replaying your last conversation, and trying to determine whether your kindness meant something or nothing at all. Why do they behave like this? Because Virgo is afraid of making a mistake of the heart. They are deeply sensitive, but they protect that sensitivity through control. Virgo hates the idea of looking foolish, being misunderstood, or giving too much to someone who will later call it not that serious. So instead of confessing, they become useful, attentive, and quietly irreplaceable. Their feelings often manifest through care. They notice when you are tired before anyone else does. They remember what stresses you. They give advice that comes from genuine concern, not superiority. They help you fix problems, bring order into your chaos, and support you in dozens of small ways that seem practical on the surface but are often emotional devotion in disguise. Virgo's love is in the details. It is in the message asking whether you ate. It is in remembering your allergy, your important meeting, your family situation, your favorite tea, the one thing you said casually 2 months ago. They may not say, "I adore you," but they build a quiet world around your comfort. The sadness is that Virgo often believes this should be enough. They think, if they really see me, they will understand. but not everyone knows how to read devotion hidden inside ordinary gestures. And so Virgo may stay silent for too long, waiting for a perfect moment that never comes. To build a relationship with Virgo, you need patience, emotional clarity, and appreciation for subtle forms of love. Virgo does not always arrive with dramatic passion at first, but they often bring something more lasting: consistency, loyalty, and sincere investment in your well-being. Still, do not make them do all their loving in silence. Invite them into emotional openness. Reassure them that imperfection is allowed in love, that not every confession must be polished, and that vulnerability does not have to be embarrassing. Virgo needs a partner who sees care as a love language but also encourages speech, softness, and emotional risk. When Virgo learns that love is not an exam they must pass flawlessly, they become one of the most devoted and healing partners of all. Aquarius. Aquarius hides feelings in a completely different way. Where some signs hide behind fear, Aquarius often hides behind distance, abstraction, or a carefully maintained identity of independence. They can be deeply affected by someone and still act as if everything is light, casual, intellectual, or undefined. Aquarius is often terrified of being emotionally trapped, emotionally predictable, or emotionally readable. Even when their heart is involved, they may keep the connection in a strange in-between space, giving you intense conversations, unusual closeness, and unforgettable chemistry, but very little plain language. This is the sign most likely to look you in the eyes as if they can see straight into your soul, and then change the subject before anything too vulnerable is spoken. Why do they behave like this? Because Aquarius fears losing freedom, but even more secretly, they fear losing control over themselves. Feelings can make them feel exposed, irrational, and dependent on outcomes they cannot intellectually manage. So instead of admitting love, they may joke, withdraw, become inconsistent, or turn the connection into something safely undefined. Yet their feelings always reveal themselves in indirect ways. Aquarius shows love through mental intimacy, emotional originality, and a surprising loyalty that appears once they let someone into their private inner world. They may share dreams, ideas, strange confessions, future visions, music, messages at odd hours, or conversations no one else gets to have with them. They may not say "I need you," but they keep returning to you because your presence changes their inner weather. Aquarius often assumes there is still time. They think the bond will remain, that the other person will understand the unspoken, that emotional labels can wait. But love cannot always survive on implication alone. And Aquarius, more than they admit, can be shaken to the core when they realize that someone else is offering you what they withheld: clarity, presence, a real choice. The moment they sense they are no longer the mysterious center of your attention, they often wake up emotionally with surprising force. Suddenly, the one who seemed detached becomes restless, intense, even possessive in subtle ways. Their confession may come late, but it often comes like lightning, sudden, honest, almost shocking in its intensity. Aquarius may reveal that they have loved you all along, but were afraid of naming something that would change everything. To build a relationship with Aquarius, you must respect their individuality without allowing the connection to remain forever vague. They need space, yes, but they also need to learn that real intimacy is not the enemy of freedom. Be honest, intelligent, and emotionally self-respecting. Do not chase endlessly through mixed signals. Aquarius often falls hardest for people who have their own life, their own center, their own dignity. If they feel you can stand without clinging, they trust more. But they also need gentle truth from you, that love cannot grow only in hints and unfinished sentences. With Aquarius, the relationship becomes extraordinary when they stop hiding behind distance and realize that choosing someone freely is the greatest form of freedom they will ever know. Taurus. Taurus may seem like a surprising name on this list, because this sign is associated with loyalty, sensuality, and stable love. But Taurus often hides feelings longer than people expect, especially when the love is serious. This is not because they are insincere. On the contrary, Taurus is careful precisely because their heart does not play with temporary things. Once they become emotionally attached, they do not detach easily. That is why they may resist admitting love until they feel absolutely safe. Taurus fears heartbreak because heartbreak shakes the very foundation of their inner world. They are creatures of emotional continuity. They want to build, keep, protect, and trust. If they sense uncertainty, they may remain silent much longer than their heart wants. Why do they behave like this? Because Taurus does not like instability, rejection, or emotional risk they cannot control. They may want you deeply, miss you intensely, and imagine a whole life with you, but they still might wait, watch, and say far less than they feel. Taurus often hopes that steady presence will speak for them. They show love through consistency, physical warmth, protective gestures, generosity, and reliability. They may bring comfort into your life before they ever bring confession. They are the ones who remember what makes you feel calm. They help you practically. They create a sense of safety. Their affection lives in touch, in food, in time, in shared rituals, in the quiet desire to make your life softer and more beautiful. But Taurus also has pride. If they are uncertain of your feelings, they may become stubbornly silent. They can wait far too long, convincing themselves that if it is real, it will remain. They may quietly hope you will make the first move, or at least offer enough reassurance to lower their emotional defenses. Yet, while Taurus is waiting, life keeps moving. Another person may appear someone more verbal, more obvious, more emotionally available. And that is when the sleeping fire inside Taurus can erupt. Few things activate Taurus faster than the genuine threat of losing the person they love to someone else. The calm one suddenly becomes emotional. The quiet one suddenly becomes direct. The reserved one finally says what they should have said months ago. To build a relationship with Taurus, you need trust, tenderness, and emotional steadiness. Taurus thrives with people who are warm, faithful, patient, and clear in their intentions. They do not do well with chaos, games, inconsistency, or casual cruelty. But Taurus must also learn that love cannot always be protected through silence. If they want a real future, they must speak before they are standing outside their own happiness watching someone else walk away with it. Be gentle with their sensitivity, but do not let them hide forever behind comfort and habit. Encourage openness. Appreciate their loyalty. Notice the love in the small rituals they create. When Taurus feels safe enough to stop withholding what is in their heart, they become one of the most deeply loving, sensual, and unwavering partners in the zodiac.